Okay, so welcome back to episode 2. In this one, we're going to do a preliminary leveling. Okay, now I've told you, as I've been teaching you, that it's not worth doing a really detailed, deep leveling and balance until you've done other things like applying effects processing and that kind of thing, because all of those things are going to affect how different tracks sound in relation to one another. But it is still worth, or it is worth, doing a basic leveling at this stage, so what you are mixing is sounding the best that it can, because at the end of the day, the whole process here is to enhance what you are hearing, what the listener is hearing. So we need things to be in a pretty decent state in terms of levels before we do anything else. So I'm going to open the mixer, or not, because I'm not selected into Logic. There we go. And we have a problem straight away. Now, as I said, this project has been recorded pretty well, and you did quite a good job with leveling to -18. However, not all of the tracks are at -18. If we listen to the beginning, you can see that we've already got on this drum track, we've got 3.6. Oh, now we're clipping on the stereo outs. So some issues with the drum tracks that need resolving. Okay, so we want everything at -18. That's what we said. And luckily, Logic is an amazing piece of kit, and it can do that for us. So what we want is we want a peak level of -18 on every single track. So I'm going to select everything. I'm going to click in the main window, go Windows A or Command A to select everything, and use the Normalize Region Gain tool, which is up here in Functions. Now, do not forget that this will not be enabled by default. You might need to turn it on. So to do that, go up to Logic Pro Preferences, and the last one is Advanced Tools. Make sure that Show Advanced Tools is ticked, and make sure that all of the others are ticked as well, and then you will have this option. So I've got everything available to me. Normalize Region Gain, really straightforward. And we're going to go individual tracks, right? Want each individual track to be at -18, and we're going to go apply. There we go. So now you can see that loudest point. That point at the beginning was actually the loudest point on the snare track, and it's now leveled perfectly to -18. The only thing this won't have worked on is the lead guitar part. Listen to this. You can see this is leveled much higher. It's up around the -8.3, and it's not even at its loudest section. So the reason for that is, again, because you've used the take tool. Now, again, I don't know if it was a deliberate decision or what, but this is one of the reasons why I don't like the take tool. Things get far too complicated for me on the take tool. I would much rather create a second track like you have with the bass and then add in extra sections. So I'm going to click on this region, right? And again, I'm going to go Normalize Region Gain, -18. And that hasn't taken. I might need to do collective selection. There we go. So that is now leveled down as well. Just check that. Lovely. And you can see that as it's going along, we've got loads of headroom on all the tracks, and crucially, we've got lots of headroom on the stereo out as well, which is the master output. Remember, if that goes above 0, you've got clipping, and we definitely don't want that. Plus, also, don't forget that later we've got the mastering process. So if it's too quiet, or if it's under, or if it's better to be a long way under at this stage than it is to be over. We never want clipping. We've got around, we're hovering around -12. For the stereo out once all the tracks are combined, which is lovely. Peak of -9.9. I have to say, actually, the track already sounds better. It's still out of balance, but it does sound much better already. So, what do you need to do at that point? Well, of course, ladies and gentlemen, you need to take a screenshot and write up what you've just done. So, let's do that. So, here we go. Windows Shift 3. There's our presentation, which is already starting to look like a nice piece of work. And you know what? Let's put some titles in. Insert. Let's do it as word art as well. There we go. In fact, let's do a duplicate one of these. Put it up here. Too big. There we go. So first section was preparing the mix. Second section is leveling. So new slide. Put the screenshot in. New slide again. Don't want this one blank though. Why is that labelled as screenshot 1? Should be screenshot 2 really, shouldn't it? Let's change that. And then screenshot 3. Okay. We are ready to start the mixing process. The track has been recorded quite well, with most of the tracks around -18 dB, which is what we were aiming for as we recorded it. However, not all of the tracks are suitably leveled, and it makes sense to get the mix sounding the best that we can before we start mixing in great detail. As a result, I use the normalize region gain function, which is an advanced tool in Logic Pro, to set the peak level of every track to -18 dB. This had a particular effect on the drums, which were leveled much too high. Okay, so I've explained what I've done, but I've also said why I've done it, right? We're at level 3, so all the time we need to be saying what we've done, why we've done it, why we made those decisions, how those things have made things better. Okay, so now we can actually do a basic leveling. And the way to do this is to find the loudest part of the song, put the cycle tool on, and make sure that you are mixing that section. So what we want is we want the chorus, don't we, which is pretty much where the lead guitar appears. Here it comes. Okay, so about bar 25. Okay. A little bit too early, so using the cycle tool. You know what? That's not sounding half bad already. I'm just finding the end of the chorus. That'll do. Okay, Okay, so I'm going to take the cycle tool in. Again, if you want more control, hold control. There we go. So I'm going to leave it running. Okay, now this is where things start to get very individual to you, right? I am mixing on headphones. You guys are going to be doing the majority of your mixing on headphones. It's going to be very important later that we check your mix on a range of sound systems, particularly as it's mentioned on your assignment brief. But this is where your mix gets personal, right? You should not copy exactly what I do, right? With none of this, you should copy what I do. You shouldn't copy what I've written. You shouldn't copy my color schemes. You should be being individual, okay? None of your mixes are going to sound identical. I'm not saying that this is the only way to mix this track. Far from it. This is just the way I'm going to do it. So, straight away, I want more vocal, right? So, for this leveling, we are going to use the faders on here. If the faders are not enough, right, if we can't get the levels that we want, then we might have to use some gain plugins as well. But we're going to use the faders for the time being. So I want more Alexis. Okay, so that's already sounding better in terms of balance. But what I've got now is I've got my faders plastered right up against a 6, because actually I want more gain than that. So I'm going to change my mind. Right, and I'm going to boost Alexis's gain using a plugin. He says clicking on EQ, which is not what I wanted at all. Okay, so I'm going to go to Effects. I'm going to go to Utility. Gain. It's a mono track. Okay, and I'm going to decide how much gain I want to add. Okay, you can see it's coming up.
There's nothing here.
That's clearly way too much. Okay, that's quite a lot of gain, but works for me. Okay, going to duplicate that plugin. That's annoying. Why has that happened? There we go.
There's nothing here, but that's okay. Outside your room, your sister.
Okay, so that's sounding much nicer already. You know what I can barely hear any of? The bass. So, let's turn the bass up. I like bass. But again, I've had to turn that up to +6, ram the fader up near the top. No thanks. So let's use a gain plugin here as well.
There's nothing here, but that's okay. Outside your room, your sister's spinning.
Now we can really hear the bass. Way too much, clearly.
But she laughs and tells me it's just fine. I guess she's out there somewhere.
That sounds alright.
Alice and outside is sinking. There's nothing here, but that's okay. Outside
Yep, that works.
your sister's spinning.
Right, I'd like some more drums.
But she laughs.
They're not really coming through. We leveled them down quite a lot. Quite a lot of snare needed.
I guess she's out there somewhere.
Definitely need more kick.
Alice and There's nothing here.
That's quite thumpy.
Okay. Outside your room, your sister's spinning, but she laughs and tells me it's just fine. I guess she's out there somewhere.
So I think I'm pretty happy with that.
Allison outside is sinking. There's nothing here, but that's okay.
Yep, sounded pretty good. However, might have a bit of a problem here
Your sister's spinning,
in that our peak meter
but she laughs and tells me it's just fine. I guess she's out there.
need to check this. Watch the peak meter.
Allison outside is sinking. There's nothing here, but that's okay.
So far, so good. Although we're at minus 4.2 already.
Your sister's spinning, but she laughs and tells me it's just fine. I guess she's out there somewhere.
Okay, so the when I was playing around with the gain and cranked it right up, that obviously is what caused the peak meter to go into the clipping zone or above 0. Yeah, minus 4.2. Look how much headroom we've lost. What were we before? 9.9, 8.8, something like that. And now we're at minus 4.2 just by doing some pretty basic gain boosting on a few parts. So that's why it's really important that we leave ourselves lots and lots of headroom. That's what we want. So this now, you know, it's we haven't done anything particularly miraculous to it, but it's mixable. It's much more listenable to already. So we've done our basic leveling. Okay. So next up, stereo field, which I'm going to do as episode 3. But before we do anything else, what do we need to do? We need to say what we have just been doing. So make sure that all of the faders and the gain plugins are visible. In fact, you know what? I'm going to open the controls for one of them as well. Take a screenshot. I hate the way Logic does that. It keeps all of its plugins open. New slide. This one's blank. I'm going to put a screenshot on it. I've got 2 screens. That's why it's taking double the number of screenshots, not using the second screen for much at the moment. And then duplicate this one. And actually, by doing it as I go along, I'm saving my work for later, or saving my workload for later. Next stage was to get a basic leveling done, so that the mix is listenable. Is that a word? It is now. Made up a word, perhaps. No, Google seems to like it. The track was recorded okay. In fact, I've already done this bit, haven't I? I've already talked about the yes, I've already talked about normalized region gain. I forgot that I put that in. So, having normalized all of the tracks to minus 18 dB, be specific, I then used the cycle tool to loop the first chorus of the song, which is the loudest part. I then listened carefully through headphones. I will check on other sound systems later, but have to mix on headphones, as that is what our workstations have. I have got monitors here, but I'm writing as if I were you. To this section and decided what needed to be boosted. In fact, let's use technical terminology to be amplified. Can't type. Or attenuated. We didn't actually do any attenuation. We could have done. Could have turned levels down, of course. The most important thing for me was to increase the level of the vocals. I could have used the channel faders for this, but I actually wanted more than plus 6 dB on the vocals. So instead I used a gain plugin and boosted the main vocal and double track to plus 8. I also boosted, amplified the bass in a similar way. Using a gain plugin, and I adjusted the faders of some of the drum tracks to give a better balance. There is still headroom on the master track, although it is interesting how much difference just boosting, just amplifying these few tracks made to the overall peak level. What is that? Amplifying, there we go. Okay, so already starting to create a really nice blog, diary, whatever you want to call it, of what is going on. So next episode is Stereo Field. I'll see you there.